Hey guys, it's Kate, and I hope you're having a fabulous day. I'm back with another intuitive art in my Posca marker, and I'm going in on this mixed media paper, making some just very organic shapes. And so, what I decided to do in this piece is kind of make a few shapes where I kept the outline, and then the outside I'm filling in with some other marks. And when I first started with this particular painting, I was thinking a lot about patterns and the different patterns that we see in, well, everywhere in our lives. But I wanted to play with some of that repetitiveness here and really focus on adding some interesting marks, but seeing how I could kind of marry everything together in the final piece. So at this point in the painting, I haven't really made any decisions yet except for where I want my main items to go. And I guess items, elements, shapes, whatever you want to think of them. But then I'm going to grab my yellow, and I wanted to put a glaze over the whole piece so that I could start with a single color background for my whole painting, and I chose a transparent color so that I could still see a lot of those marks coming in from the background. And I went ahead and used the silicone spreader for that. Now to continue on with the pattern, I chose a brown and an olive green color, and I'm grabbing a makeup sponge and mixing those together a little bit, and I'm adding pattern into those same areas where I added the extra marks. So those larger shapes still aren't going to have any marks inside. They're going to stay pretty clean relative to the really busy other sections of the painting. So I'm kind of liking how this is coming so far, and I don't know that I very often, if ever, start off with a very yellow paper, but I kind of like how the toned paper ended up really sort of shining through at the end. So I brought out some more olive green and mixed some water in with it so it would be a glaze, and I'm glazing over that background again. So I'm toning down that yellow. But one of the things, like I was saying, I really liked about having that single tone paper as sort of a base layer to everything is that you can still see it shining through. And if you're working with transparent colors, you really can get some interesting effects with that, especially if the two colors that you're using go pretty well together. And so you'll see further on as I fill in my inside shapes, that yellow just has a lovely pop and it just really adds this sort of glow coming from the background that I really, really enjoyed. So I'm just finishing up adding that olive green, and then I'm getting some contrast back in. So I chose to go with my white and a finer brush, and I'm just kind of almost tracing back along with some of those marks that I made with my thinner fine liner. But I'm leaving those Posca marks still showing the big thicker marker lines. And so again, I'm just still embracing that pattern. I'm not being careful. I'm not trying to even go over my original pen marks, but I just wanted to add another element of interest, another element of pattern and texture to the background, and also a little bit of brightness. And each layer that I add is making those sort of blobs in the paper really stand out even more. And that was really kind of the goal with this, is have plenty of visual interest, plenty of pattern, and then have a very clear focus area. So I approach this painting a little bit differently than I normally do, where I'm kind of going willy-nilly all over the place with marks, but I really liked how this one turned out too, and it was a nice little experiment with just trying different things, and that's really what all of these paintings are for, and really what my channel is for. I like experimenting, I like having fun, painting very loosely, even if it's something that is more realistic, which I also like to do. I I really love a looser style and just being free with my tools. And it just, you know, it brings me joy. So I'm glad that you, as a subscriber, enjoy watching too. It keeps this channel going. So now you can see that gorgeous pink over the yellow. And I'm using my silicone tool again, but I'm letting the texture really come through. I'm not trying to get a uniform layer. And I really love how it almost looks fluid. And you can see little peaks of the yellow, and even where the glaze is kind of thin, you can see that yellow coming through, and it's, to me, just gorgeous. And so I was really glad that I chose that color, and I really am glad that I chose yellow for the background. And I'm definitely going to do that more often, I think, is work on a toned paper. So I also chose this kind of turquoise color, and I am watering these down just a little bit so they're more transparent. And then I decided to add it to the pink, and it made this gorgeous purple color. So I was also really happy with that. So I left some of that texture there and just added it a little bit everywhere and just had them kind of meld together. And then I also grabbed some of that pink and add it to that turquoise. So they go together even though they're all a little bit different. And so it just adds that really bright pop of color to the paper. So I really loved that purple color, and I wanted to tone down a little bit of that greenish yellow on the background and kind of bring both of the sections together. I really love how the big organic shapes turned out, but I wanted to get some of those colors and elements onto the rest of the page so they don't look quite so separate. And so what I'm doing here is continuing on with that turquoise and pink mixture, and I'm going over some of those original lines that I had with the Posca marker. So you'll kind of see as we keep going along that I'm introducing those colors to the outside now as I'm sort of finishing things up and just almost marrying them together so they don't look quite so different. But I do like the contrast between the warm and the cool and the bright colors and the more subdued greens. And there's also plenty of contrast in this painting also. So I just was kind of going slowly, and I'm scraping up the last bit of paint from my plate to finish outlining these larger shapes because I loved how that color looked so much. And then I'm going to work on adding some more contrast. So my next thing that I did was started adding a little bit of that pink just to some random little shapes on the outside. And that's again just spreading out that color a little bit more and getting a little bit of repetition going on in some of the small areas outside my large shapes. And then I wanted to definitely add some white outside my large shapes also, and you can just see them start to pop out from the back. Now my white paint was a little bit thick, so I end up here in a few seconds actually grabbing some water to make it a little bit easier to spread, so I'm having some difficulty there. Adding water was a complete game changer and it made it much easier to spread. And so I'm just going quickly around my large shapes And it's just interesting seeing them just pop right out from the background. Even though I've got those sort of squiggly white doodles, I guess you could call them, in the background, these are much thicker lines, and so they really stand out a lot more too, even though they're both white. And so I wanted to add a little bit more to this painting to finish it up. So I'm getting some water and making my paint a little bit thinner, and I'm adding some of my dots around the inside of these larger shapes. And it's just a little bit more contrast and a little bit more pattern and texture that I'm adding to just sort of bring it all together. So I'm going through the painting and adding those, which just adds another layer, and I liked how that turned out. So I'm just going to finish up with getting some more of that turquoise and adding it to a couple of spots outside of the large shapes again. So this painting was really so much fun, and I'm taking the tape off, which is my favorite part. And I hope that you enjoyed watching this video today and enjoyed the process, and hopefully it gave you some ideas for some projects of your own, whether you're working with acrylic or inks or any medium, including collage. There's just a lot of different things that you can always try. You might not like them all, but it's so much fun to experiment. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and until the next video, keep creating and have a great day.